Hello and welcome to GameShack, and in this episode we're gonna bitch, whine, and complain about some games.
That's right, we are talking about pet peeves. Everybody's got pet peeves, something about a game that really pisses you off. You're playing a game and it's like, did the developer really mean to put this in here? What's going on?
And we've got a list compiled for you, so without further ado, let's get into it. You know what really chaps my ass? Alarm or warning noises in games. The kind that don't shut up until you take care of whatever the game is trying to warn you about. Wonder Boy in Monsterland for the Sega Master System is a really good example. This is an extremely fun adventure game that has some really relaxing sound and music. But be sure to never let it get down to only one heart remaining, or God will it make your ears pay! It's one of the most obnoxious sounds ever in a video game. And this noise just keeps going and going and going until you find a way to replenish your life. And that's not always an easy thing to do. Why? Some games, like 1941 on the Super Graphics, have a less annoying sound when you're close to death. But it still makes me want to kill my plane just to shut off the sound. There's really no reason for this, ever. And in some games, it's not even to alert that you're near death. In A Stall on the Saturn, for example, you have a bird that can assist you by giving you life-giving fruit, attacking enemies, or freezing platforms to make your way a little easier. The problem is that when you have enough power and the bird wants to do something, it starts making an alarm sound and it will not stop until you use the bird to do something. Actually, this game is full of horrid sounds, and this is only one of them. The music in this game is excellent, and I'm sure the composers love the droning alarm sounds that make it almost impossible to enjoy as you play. And of course, it goes without saying that Baby Mario and Yoshi's Island does nothing to make the game more enjoyable. Does it make the game more enjoyable for you? I can't imagine that it does. Seriously, gamers aren't dumb. We don't need alarms to tell us when something bad is happening. Let us get a game over and learn the hard way when we need to be alert. I tell you, that's way more enjoyable than a constant alarm.
I love playing co-op games with my friends when we get the time. There's nothing better than playing a two-player game where teamwork will see you through each level to hopefully defeat the final boss and share in the victory. It's really fun working together all the way through the game, and it makes you feel like you've helped each other out after it's all over. And that's all great, but if you're like me, you have that one friend who hogs all the power-ups and tries to take all the items for themselves. This is definitely one of my biggest pet peeves. It's like they don't realize you're playing the game with them. There's an untold code that we gamers follow when playing co-op games, and that's to distribute all the items equally. If one person is low on health, they should automatically be entitled to get the next item that will replenish their life bar. If one player has an awesome weapon, they should give up the next weapon icon to the other guy who still has the base gun. This is what sours a fun time very quickly. Instead of fighting the common enemy, you end up trying to teach your buddy a lesson, and you end up going for all the power-ups just so they can see how it feels. It always ends up with you yelling at each other. Dude, stop hogging all the power-ups. I really could have used that turkey, man. Can't you see I'm halfway dead? I'm never playing this game with you again. So if you play two-player co-op games, do the right thing and uphold the gamer code and cooperate.
One of my biggest pet peeves is the all-seeing, all-knowing radio buddy. I've mentioned this before briefly in an earlier episode, but damn it, it deserves more attention. Many modern single-player games over the last decade or so have a radio buddy. And what is a radio buddy? Why, it's that person that sees everything you do and always has helpful tips on how you should proceed in any given situation. They talk to you over the radio, and you're often able to communicate back to them and hold lengthy conversations.
This one's new. They call it a hiker. It packs a fierce punch with a good spread. Not exactly subtle.
The radio buddy is somehow able to see what you're doing at all times. Right when you walk into a new area, your radio buddy is there immediately with advice and warnings for you.
Good idea. It'd be safer if you keep indoors as much as possible.
And often they're even able to help you by controlling different things in your environment somehow.
I got control of the building systems.
Why does the radio never run out of batteries? And what is the transmission range on this thing? I mean, walkie-talkies aren't exactly known for having a great range. When it comes down to it, the radio buddy is just a lazy, uncreative way for developers not only to advance the story, but also to hold your hand.
You need an explosive to blow up that wall. Search for something with a good-sized boom.
There's very few games where I think it's done well, and Metal Gear Solid is all of them. It sure doesn't look like this trope is going away anytime soon.
Whoa, nice move. I wouldn't want to be caught in that shockwave.
And again, at least we have a few generations of games that we can still enjoy where we never had to worry about this. Can you imagine these classics with a radio buddy?
Captain Novelin, it's time to take your insulin. The enemy has inflicted you with a status effect that caused your immune system to attack your pancreas, and now you can't make your own insulin. So you need to inject it yourself in order to break down the sugars in your bloodstream. If you don't take your insulin, ketoacidosis will take you down double time, and I wouldn't want to be caught in that shockwave. The only way to get rid of your diabetes is to defeat the final boss. Oh no! Help me, Captain Novelin. The enemy has now inflicted me with diabetes. Hurry up and come save me! Come in, Axel. This boss is dangerous, and he even brought a little friend with him. This boss can move with very quick bursts, so be careful. If you can deplete the boss's entire life bar... Oh no! You were defeated. I was able to hack in and give you a few extra chances, but only a few, so don't waste them like they're candy. Speaking of candy, try not to get diabetes, okay? And always remember to keep an eye on your blood sugar.
Now, do you see where I'm coming from when I say how pointless radio buddies in most games are? I sure hope so.
Ooh, the heavy ordnance. Hey, why not chuck a zombie at it?
All right, we're starting out pretty well, and I don't know about you, but I'm pretty pissed off so far.
Oh yeah.
But you know what? With things like that radio buddy, it's just laughable. It makes you just want to laugh. It's so bad.
Indeed, but you've got one that's coming up right now that really pisses me off as well. So let's get into it.
My next gripe is about games where you get knocked back and or you're stunned after taking a hit from an enemy. Now don't get me wrong, because I know this does serve a purpose. I know that if you're fighting an enemy and there's no knockback, you'll basically be standing on top of that enemy taking hits which will kill you fast. Or it would allow you to just keep walking right past your enemies to the end of a level even though you take a hit or two in the process. So yeah, being knocked back is kind of a necessary part of a lot of 2D action platformers, but being stunned in the process, aka temporarily paralyzed, just adds to the anger I have. There's a few situations that I get in which will just increase the amount of hate that I feel when this happens. The first one is where you're just on a flat level actioning your way across. You get hit by an enemy or unseen projectile and get knocked back and stunned. I get annoyed with this and quickly take my revenge on whatever it is that hit me and make sure it dies. In my mind, I'm making sure it feels a ton of pain, even though in reality I know the sprites can't feel anything. The next level of anger I feel for a knockback is in certain games where I come to a new screen and there's enemies right there coming at me. I do my best to kill them, but it's not enough. I get hit, and then I get thrown into the screen that I just came from. What in the hell? And here I am going back again to have another shot at killing this enemy, only to get tossed back to the previous screen again. And in old games on the NES where enemies don't stay dead and regenerate, this becomes quite frustrating. Sometimes even to the point where I want to huck my controller at the TV. The next type where I just want to snap is where I get knocked back but don't get invincibility. I'm completely at the mercy of my enemies, and they have no mercy since they're just little sprites following a line of code. Wow, it sure seems like Castlevania, my favorite series of games, is being shown a lot in this segment. God, why do I love these games so much if they make me want to destroy everything in a 3-foot radius of my body? You know, I'll never know, but I do love them. The last type of knockback that has and will put me over the top is being knocked back when you're doing some platforming over bottomless pits and spikes. There's nothing quite as maddening as trying to make a jump or doing battle with an enemy where I get hit and knocked back and down I go into the abyss. This was a staple in platforming though back in the day. This is what I grew up knowing, and this is why I've broken more controllers than I care to admit. I'm not sure how these games could be designed any differently, but that doesn't mean I have to like it when it happens.
Oh, how I hate it when you're playing a side-scrolling game when your character walks way too close to the edge of the screen. Basically, if you're moving towards the right and your character is to the right of the middle of the screen, they're too close to the right edge. For example, Alf on the Master System is a huge offender. It's so easy to die when you can't react to the bats that come on screen and kill you with one touch. The side-scrolling segments of Golvelius on the Master System, and especially the MSX version, are great examples of this. Fortunately, the entire game isn't made up of these parts. But the worst offender that I've seen by far is Exile Wicked Phenomenon on the TurboGrafx CD. I mean, look at that. You have maybe like 20 pixels of space. Other games like X-Men on the Genesis are pushing it, but not quite to the point where it's too horrible. But it's something that they definitely fixed in X-Men 2, so they noticed. I feel it's an artificial way of increasing difficulty. Since you walk so close to the edge that you're facing, you don't have any time to react to the enemies or other dangers that are in front of you. You'll end up taking a lot of damage or even falling or dying because everything appears suddenly out of nowhere. Maybe the developers intend that your character is nearsighted? I don't want to play as a nearsighted action hero without their glasses. Whatever the case is, it's really annoying. You end up creeping along slowly, bit by bit, so that you have enough time to deal with whatever's ahead. And sometimes that doesn't even help because the enemy's attack range is bigger than your visible portion of the screen. Not only that, but it's a huge waste of screen real estate as you have so much space behind you that you're not even concerned with. Some programmers, like Dave Perry, also think that this is annoying, and he found a solution. But sadly, the solution itself is also pretty bad. And his solution was that your character always has lots of space in front of him or her. Always. That means if you turn around, the screen abruptly snaps to give your character that space. And that snapping can get pretty bad if you're in a spot where you're changing directions a lot trying to get an item or kill an enemy or something. So I'm not sure which I hate more, but at least Dave Perry's later games didn't do this so abruptly. That means that he learns, and that's good, and I do admire his original intentions. But hopefully we can agree that walking or running too closely to the side of the screen is a bad thing, and there's no reason for it. So basically, I just want to have room to see where I'm going and not have a whip pan when I turn around.
Okay, I've got another one concerning two-player co-op games. I really hate when you can damage each other in certain games. This is common in a lot of beat-em-ups. It's insanely frustrating when you and your buddy go for the same enemy to beat up or kill and end up hurting each other. It puts a halt to the fight as one of you needs to back away and fight someone else, which in turn leaves you both open for the enemy to attack. The Streets of Rage series has to be the worst though. Not only do you damage your friend, but every time you get close to them, you put them in a hold. After that, it's a frantic mashing of buttons to release the hold, all while the enemy can be taking their shots at you if one or two are nearby. And half the time you can't release the hold because you just end up throwing your partner. There's one game that I know that has proactively put in an option for this. Battletoads Double Dragon has a two-player game A and B option. Option A will make it super real and let you beat up your buddy along with the enemy. Option B, on the other hand, only lets you beat up the enemy. I'd like to commend Rare for this, but the reality of it is that you should never be able to damage another player in the game. And I mean ever. Okay, one-on-one fighting games and battle royale style games are different. And online first-person shooters. And yeah, sports games too. You know what I mean.
okay. I mean, I can see your complaint. I don't play two-player games very much because I don't have any friends. But I can see it's a valid complaint.
Yeah, it definitely is a valid complaint. I mean, I'm sure people think it's a strategic move to keep you separated, but forget that. When I want to brawl with my buddies, we're going to be all over the screen. So it's valid, and I hate it.
Okay then, so we've got some more, so just sit back and stay tuned.
I wouldn't know right from wrong if one of them was helping the poor and the other was banging my sister.
Do you like cutscenes? Do you like them so much that you're forced to watch them? I like them sometimes, but I hate not being able to skip them if I want to. For example, the opening for Akami on the PlayStation 2 is just dreadful. What makes it worse is the weird voice-like effects that must sound with each and every slowly drawn word. And it takes over 7 long minutes before it even starts to get somewhat interesting. But then it becomes dull again at about 10 minutes in with this lady who has way too much to say and is not in any hurry to say it. You won't be able to actually control the wolf until over 15 minutes after you've booted up the game. Come on, tell me the backstory as I play, don't force it all on me at the beginning. Then there's Final Fantasy X. You can't skip any of the cutscenes here, but at least you can pause the ones that are rendered with the game engine. Sadly, you can't pause the FMV cutscenes. Some people might ask why you'd ever want to skip a cutscene in an RPG where it's all about the story. Well, if you die at a boss and you have to restart, guess who gets to watch the entire cutscene introducing the boss again? And if you're going through the game again and you already know the story and you just want to get through it, well, too bad for you. They should have fixed this in the HD remaster here, but nope. At least with Okami HD on the modern systems, they give you the option to skip the scenes, which is much appreciated. I guess developers think that gamers have all the time in the world and nothing else to do in their lives. This issue even extends back to the 16-bit era with a few games like Zardion on the Super Nintendo. You can't skip the opening story scroll at all. It'll be 45 seconds before you're able to start the game, and it even has more unskippable nonsense after that. Then you get to the actual game and it still has more to say. It'll be over a minute and a half after you've powered on the game before you're actually able to experience the thing you bought the game for. Gameplay. But that's nothing compared to modern games these days with their publisher logos, their developer logos, their game engine logos, and they've all got a display on their very own screen, slowly. But back then, it was very frustrating to be forced to wait every single time you turned the game on for quite literally no justifiable reason. Some games like Max Payne 3 use the cutscenes to hide the loading of the next area. If you try to skip them, it gently lets you know that it's still loading, so please calm your impatient ass down. You can skip them once it's all loaded, but it takes quite a long time to do so, even though the entire game is installed on your console's hard drive. For some reason, a lot of people complain about the unskippable cutscenes in this particular game. In my opinion, when you're playing this for the first time, it's really a non-issue, especially since it blends so well with the gameplay, but if you're replaying it again, then it is kind of a bummer unless you want to experience all the story stuff again. The bottom line is that playing the actual game is the most important part of the video game experience for me, and sometimes I just want to do that.
These were the kind of people who went to nightclubs in helicopters. Fabiana had brought her sister along, presumably so she could show off just how rich and empty her life was. And boy, was she about to learn the meaning of rich and empty.
Probably my biggest pet peeve is bosses that don't have a life bar. This might seem petty to a lot of you out there because you think it adds suspense to the fight or some crap like that, but this makes me so stinking mad that I could do something really mean. You work so hard at fighting and platforming or whatever you do to get through a level to finally come face to face with a boss, and sometimes it's a huge boss. You fight it and wonder the whole time if you're even hurting it. Is he dying? Is he at all hurt? Is he even close to dying? How much more do I have to punish him before he freaking dies? Seriously, a lot of times I'm almost dead myself and I really need to know if I'm remotely close to killing this freaking boss. But there's a lot of games that do it right. Castlevania, for example. All the bosses have life bars, and even though you might die a few times, at least you know what's working and what's not. This right here, knowing how close your enemy is to death, gives you many ideas on what you could have done better to take less hits and also to put the massive hurt on the boss. Actually, a lot of games do it right. Mega Man does it, and it's always nice when you use the right weapon watching the boss's life bar get massive chunks taken out of it. Same goes for games like the 8-bit Ninja Gaiden titles. Tough games for sure, but hey, I love them even more because of the boss's life bars. There's games out there where the boss doesn't have a life bar, and I'm actually okay with it. The Super Mario Bros. Games after the first one are a great example. None of the bosses have life bars, but you know that they take 3 hits before they die, and maybe a few more for Bowser. Sonic's another good example because you know all the bosses take 8 hits. There's another type of boss fight that doesn't have a life bar that I'm fine with, and that's bosses that change color or flash the more you hit them and the closer they get to death. Well, I guess it's kind of like a primitive life bar now that I think of it. But for God's sakes, why have a boss that does nothing until you deal the final blow? Super Ghouls and Ghosts is a great example of this. Every boss you encounter in that game just soaks up the hits. If you have the base weapon, it could feel like forever before they die. Same with Contra 3 on the SNES. The boss of the 3rd level, before I knew how to fight him, probably was the inspiration for the term Rage Quit. Those 2 smaller robots and then the large robot were things that brought me nightmares. I definitely broke a controller fighting those jerks. Now, does this ruin a game for me? No, of course it doesn't, but I definitely enjoy it more if this information was available and viewable as I'm fighting. What are your thoughts on this peevish subject?
If you've been watching GameSack for a while, you'll probably remember me complaining that European games love to have your character be harmed by drops of water. That's right, drops of water. And it's true, European games love that. They love that crap. Yep, if you touch water, even just a drop, that's just as bad as getting hit in the face by an enemy fist or sliced once with a sword. In games like Gym Power, a drop of water will outright kill you. I mean, it's not bad enough that the scrolling is so wonky that your eyeballs begin to convulse, but you've got to watch out for water drops too. And look at the agonizing death that this poor bastard experiences after touching a single drop of water. I wonder how he takes a bath. And like I said, this seems to be mainly a thing with European game developers. For example, the original Blaster Master was Japanese and your tank could go underwater no problem. But Blaster Master 2 on the Genesis was developed in Manchester, so that means a drop of water can destroy your tank. Yes, they love this in Europe. It's their favorite thing about video games. But believe it or not, there are some games that were developed outside of Europe that do this. Some even developed in Japan. And it's still not cool at all. Suffice it to say, a drop of water is probably one of the lamest, if not the lamest, obstacles you can have in a video game.
Okay, last one, and you know what? It's going to be pretty quick. And again, it's about 2-player co-op games. Have you ever played a game like Contra and you're going up the vertically scrolling stage and then one player jumps and scrolls you off the screen and then you die? Yeah, what kind of crap is that? The player that's going too fast shouldn't be allowed to scroll until the bottom player is caught up. But no, you die instead. This effectively makes the 2-player mode a lot harder than the single-player mode. What ends up happening is that you both go super slow just to make sure the other doesn't get pushed off the screen. It's really irritating, especially if it accidentally happens when you're jumping out of the way of enemy fire or something and kill the other player. Fortunately, there's not a ton of games that do this, but if you happen to be playing one with a buddy that does, you really need to make sure you're both extremely careful.
Alright, those are some of our biggest pet peeves, but of course we've got more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but we've talked plenty, so we want to hear what your biggest pet peeves are and leave them in the comments down below.
And in the meantime, thank you for watching GameSack.
I was able to hack in from the future so that you could hear me. And there's lots of bats and vampires and things like that here, so I need you to take down Dracula in your time in order to save the future. Good job, Simon. You found the Castlevania pot roast. Eating it will restore your life and help you to manage your diabetes. Come in, Simon. This monster here is Medusa, and she can be pretty tough. But if you throw your vials of insulin at her, she'll get massive hypoglycemia and quickly die. In fact, your insulin vials are probably the best weapon you have. Oh boy, this guy sure does need some moisturizing lotion. And he's immune to insulin, so you'll have to use the cross of fear, which you lose even if you catch it as it comes back